Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the NerdNest podcast. I'm Bill, and today I'm joined by Jimmy, Russ, and Rich. And I'm going to start us off. I want to start us off by talking to Jimmy because we haven't seen him in a really, really long time. Jimmy, what have you been playing?
Gran Turismo 7. I'm like I've been playing a lot of racing games. I
Nice.
went back, finished Need for Speed Unbound. I was like, that was good. That was decent. Then I got like really into Assetto Corsa on my racing wheel, and I've just been playing a ton of that. But then my buddy came over last night, and I still just wanted to play some racing games. So I was like, I bought Gran Turismo 7 for my PSVR 2 video, and I played it for like 5 minutes and then never touched it again. I was like, let me try it out. That game is awesome. It's so good. I played it for like 7 hours last night trying to get all the license tests done, and I'm like almost through it. But it looks amazing. The controls are really good. It feels like really good on a controller, even if you don't have like a full wheel setup. I know there's like issues with the live service aspect of it that people have, but I haven't gotten to the point where I'm actually racing cars yet. So I'm sure I'll have complaints later. But as far as like the onboarding goes, it's really fun.
Yeah, I bought it for PSVR 2 as well. And I played it a little bit in PSVR 2, but I really prefer it flat, like on just a TV screen and playing it like that. I also bought a wheel. I spent a lot of money on Gran Turismo 7. And the best way that I play is with a controller on a TV, without the VR headset, without the wheel. And everybody who loves that game, they're like, you got to play it with the wheel. That's the best way to play it. I just prefer to be able to sit back. Plus those wheels,
it's just like a whole thing.
Yeah,
like
it's too much work.
Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to set my PS5 up at my desk, and I don't have a way to set up the wheel in front of my TV. So that's my controller game. I'm fine with that. It's so weird though playing that game where the like trigger, you know, in like Need for Speed or kind of Forza, when you're pulling the trigger for brake, it's either on or off, and the same with the throttle. This game, you can like with the DualSense, you can use it like a car, so you can do like light braking or you can do like light throttling. And I'm like, this is like that's the hardest part, like learning how to corner and stuff like that. It's really deep.
Yeah, and I played a lot of Forza, but after playing Gran Turismo 7 with the DualSense Edge, or with the DualSense controller and those triggers, Forza just feels not nearly as good. Because
it feels like the cars are on ice or in Forza to me. Like they just like fly
but you just don't feel it. Like there's so much resistance with the triggers when you're playing on the on the DualSense that like that's my favorite.
They like
racing
vibrate
game.
When you go off track. They like you feel, and they vibrate in sync with the like curbing. So if the curbing's like raise lower, you feel each individual bump when you're going off track in the trigger. And I'm like, this is really cool. That still feels like the most next gen feature of the PS5, like the controller when they actually use it right.
Yeah, and later on in the video or in the podcast, everybody, we're going to be talking about that PS5 controller more towards the end of the show. So stick around for that. Russ, what have you been playing, man?
Well, I'm over here thinking like, oh, it's cool that they made a sequel to Gran Turismo 2. Like that's how far behind my knowledge is of this game. You know what I mean? Like that's the last game I owned where it had like the arcade disc and I could just put that one in and not worry about like career stuff. Like what was that? 2001? Yeah, it's been a long time. Anyway, I have been playing Animal Well again from the beginning because so have you guys heard of Sudachi, which is like a fork of Yuzu that it's like the one that hasn't been taken down basically. So it has an Android version and it's been getting updated where they specifically are targeting games. And one of those is Animal Well. And so now it runs on Android via the Yuzu or Sudachi emulator, which is really just Yuzu. But anyway, so I started all over again, even though I was like a few hours into it on Steam. I was like, well, I'm going on a big trip next week and we're going to England. So we got like a flight to San Francisco at 6 hours. Then we got a flight to England from there, which is going to be, 12 hours. And I was like, I need something with battery life. And so I'm like, all right, I'll bring my Odin, which means it's Android only. And so that's when I was like, okay, I will figure out if I can get Animal Well working, because that's the perfect time to just sit down and play it. And so I started over, and the interesting thing about Animal Well, and Bill, I think you kind of talked about, is like when you start up that game, you're just kind of like, where am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? How do I get to the next spot? Like, it's very discovery oriented. I'll tell you, when you have to replay it from the start again and you know where you're going, it feels so cool just from the very beginning. And so
really?
It was a new experience for me where I was like, okay, I know where I'm going now. Like, okay. And like, because I remember the first time I played, I was like, I think I should go here. Like, I think I might be missing something. Like all those things that I kind of don't like about Metroidvania sometimes, where it's like, I think I got 2 paths to go on. I hope I picked the right one, you know? Now that I know which one is the right one, kind of a little bit better, like it made it a much more enjoyable experience for me. And so that's what I've been playing. Like I only played it maybe another half hour or so, but it was just like, it hit differently, which was really interesting for me. So I feel like after I finish this game, I might like want to play it again, which is not something I normally would do, which is kind of unique.
It's funny that you mentioned after you finish this game. Like I've finished this game, and for the audio listeners, I'm putting it in quotes because I got to what seems like the last boss. I got the end credits, but there's more to do after that. In fact, I have seen other people playing, and I've seen like, for instance, certain tools that you get. Like I've seen videos of people playing where they are using these tools in ways that I can't. And I finished, like I beat the last boss, as far as I know, and I've seen the credits, and I never upgraded any of those abilities that I ended up picking up. So I was like, I saw somebody playing, and they were like, I'm just going to spoil this thing that I saw on YouTube. Somebody was using the bubble wand with multiple bubbles, and I was like, whoa, how do you... Because every time you use the bubble wand, you put out a new bubble, the old one goes away. And I saw a video and somebody had multiple bubbles. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I wonder when I'm going to get that. And then I finished the game and I was like,
it's not there.
I didn't get that yet. So there's more to it.
Have you done the thing with the Frisbee? The disc?
I mean, I have the disc. I've used the disc a lot.
There is an achievement that you can unlock by doing something special with the disc. I don't know anything about the bubble, but I happened upon like this thing with the disc. I'll tell you offline.
Okay.
But I was like, whoa, you can do this? And then I unlocked an achievement for it. So it was kind of cool.
Okay.
I'll say that, like, for me.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I was just going to mention, like, when it comes to Metroidvanias, this one reminds me a lot of Shadow Complex. Did you guys ever play that one?
Oh,
that
was
on
awesome.
Xbox Live Arcade.
Yeah.
It was amazing, right? But it was short. That's what I loved about it, right? And so that's a game I have actually gone back and replayed, which is not very frequent for me. And so I feel like I'm getting the same vibe now with Animal Well, which is awesome. So I'm really looking forward to this trip, just because I actually will be able to sit down and like full on play some games instead of like making videos about games. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's a good game for that. Like you said, it's pretty short, even though there is a lot to do. So it can be longer, but just and there's a nice pickup in play nature. I was curious for Bill, right? Now that you've beaten it, you must not get lost anymore, right? Would you say?
Oh, God, no.
You still get plenty lost. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. The map is still terrible. And like just you feel like, if I want to get from point A to point B, I open up the map and I kind of look at it. And then I think, okay, I think I know where I'm going. I start going, and then I hit a wall where like, I can't cross this one spot because there's a wall there. And I didn't really realize that because the map is so vague, I guess is the word. So I still got lost a bunch.
Now that I've used it, and what are you playing on, Bill?
I played it on the OLED deck, and the reason why is because it's got the dark screen. There's a lot, like this makes the OLED makes this game look just so good because it's just off most of the time.
So I was going to mention, do you use the magnifying glass? Because that is key for me with the map.
The magnifying glass.
The Steam.
Oh, where I hold down Steam and press something.
L1. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no, I never even
No.
thought of that.
Yeah, that's a big help for me. So I'm at the point now where I'm comfortable with the map. I can tell like the landmarks, right? Like the bigger rooms. You can see like what is what. They even have like sort of the enemy pattern if you kind of know what that is. So yeah, I'm pretty used to the map now. I mean, I wouldn't say I get lost, but there are times where I definitely have to fumble my way around. But the map is much easier to read for me now.
Did you how many hours are you into it at this point?
I want to say 6 or 7 because I played it on the flight both ways. I was on a trip recently and I played it on the flight both ways. So I'd say about 7 hours. I haven't finished it. What's that?
I was going to ask Russ the same thing, but finish what you're saying.
Oh, I was going to say I haven't finished it. I have 30 or 31 whatchamacallits. I'm not going to say what it is, but just the widgets that you pick up. So I have like 30 or 31 of those.
I don't know how many I have. I'm at 14 out of 20 achievements, and I've got 18 hours in the game.
Wow.
Nice.
But maybe that tells you that I'm just bad at navigating the game because Carrie finished it in 6 hours. Russ, how long have you played it for?
I played it for about 2.5, 3 hours on the Steam Deck, and then another half hour on the Switch. I am not playing this for 18 hours. Like I will give it 8 to 10, and I hope I can finish it by then. But it doesn't feel like I have enough time to give it 18 hours. You know what I mean? But if I can get it in under 10, like that's the game for me.
I felt like I'm done with this, and then I just kept playing because every time I would hit that wall, I would say to myself, okay, I'm going to have to look something up if I don't figure it out soon. And then I would figure something out, and it would completely open up like a completely different way to play. And then I would go back to all the places that I was at and try them again. And like that's the gameplay loop. It's so good. Jimmy, have you played Animal Well yet?
No, I bought it. And then going back to what you're saying about when you finish it, there's a lot more to do. My friend Dustin platinumed it on PS5, and I guess even after that, there's still more to do. Like after you 100% it.
Nice.
Crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely
awesome.
crazy.
Yeah, I'll get to it. I'm in the racing mind right now. I gotta like get that out, and then I can go back to doing what I was doing.
That's fair. Rich, what have you been playing?
Selaco just came out. What was that? 2 days ago on Friday. 2 days ago as we're recording it, and I'm up to 1-3, so like kind of like the third level or the third part of the first level, either way. And that game is amazing. So it's like a little Fear, a little Doom. Really, like the gunplay is pretty fast paced, but then there's a lot more just sort of looking around than you expect. The level, at least this level so far, is pretty maze like. So you kind of have to like look around. Did I miss anything? Look at your like overmap and things like that. So it takes some time to fumble around. But yeah, the gunplay for me is just so good. And even that part there, they showed like the data pad where there's like, it's basically like a codex and stuff like that. And there's like lore where you get, you see the messages, you read the messages that people have left for each other. And it's more interesting than I expected. So I kind of didn't really expect to be drawn in by the lore or the story or the narrative or anything like that. But I am reading all the little pieces. So I'm really enjoying this game personally.
And it's a boomer shooter.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm using flick stick
awesome.
and gyro. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, have you tried the new way to calibrate flick stick on your Steam Deck, where you can you bind a button to do a 360-degree turn? It's so much easier than it used to be.
Yeah, I've been meaning to try that, but I haven't tried that. I think that's a really helpful tool because otherwise you can pick a precise number to do that 360, but you otherwise have to like use an online calculator to see like what is it for this sensitivity for this game. You have to set it to this much, and if you can do that on the Steam Deck, that is really nice. And I think they did that alongside the reset camera to horizon, so the ability to reset the camera vertically, but also the ability to reset it horizontally. So you pretty much have everything you need to kind of learn gyro.
Yeah, it's not just I find I'm good with gyro. Flick stick, however, makes me nervous, and I always try it, and I'm like, nope, I'm not good enough, and I give up really quick. And I think that's a Bill problem.
For flick stick, I don't know if this is a problem for you, but it was a problem for me, and I suspect it's a problem for other people. Is because maybe partially because of the name, people expect to flick, right? I don't flick. I typically sweep, meaning I hold forward, and so when I want to aim in a different direction, I just sweep to the left or to the right. You know what I mean?
Oh, I don't do that. I flick.
And so occasionally I will flick if I need to like do a quick turn right behind me, but I just find it easier to kind of control where I'm aiming by just sweeping to the left and to the right.
Maybe I'll give it another shot with Selaco. Although Selaco seems a little fast paced to learn flick stick on, because like I was watching the video and I was like, holy cow, that looks really fast.
Yeah.
All right.
I bought that game. I'm gonna play that. That game looks awesome. I like the demo a lot.
Would you pick it up on, Jimmy?
PC. I'll play that with keyboard and mouse for sure.
Very cool.
it
I think it's
runs
only out on
GZ
PC
Doom,
so far.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
it does.
That's crazy. It's on GZ Doom. Like, it looks so good, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm aware of what GZ Doom is, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Can somebody explain exactly what this is for the people who know even less than me as far as GZ Doom?
Yeah, so GZ Doom is what's called a source port of Doom. So Doom, thankfully, kept all of its like assets, like the music, the sprites, the models, the level design, kept all of those assets in separate files called WADs, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can easily look at a WAD and modify it to create your own assets. So when people mod Doom, they're typically creating their own WADs or modifying WADs so that you have different looking weapons or change the properties of those weapons. But the other thing Doom did eventually was they open sourced the Doom code. And so the Doom engine and the WADs are kind of two separate pieces. And so that open sourced version of the Doom engine has been ported many times over at this point. GZ Doom is probably the most popular or the best at this point. But it's a port of the engine to modern sensibilities. So it has mouse aim, of course. It has widescreen resolution. It just has things that weren't supported in the original version of the engine.
Very cool. The only time I've used GZ Doom is when I was trying to get the Zelda first person. Somebody had remade the original Zelda world in GZ Doom, and I was like, I got to try that out. And I wanted to try it on the Steam Deck, and I couldn't figure out how to get it to work, so I gave up fairly quickly.
Do you guys remember not that long ago, like a month ago, there was, or maybe even less than that, there was the Robotnik Ring Racers game?
Yeah,
I've never heard of this.
Yeah. So it's like this free, probably open source game that you can download on Linux, download on Windows. The point is that I believe is also a GZ Doom game.
That's crazy.
It's
insane.
amazing.
Yeah, there's there's like an open source Doom engine called PR Boom, which is available on RetroArch. So you can load up, it has to be very lightweight WADs, but you can load up WADs and then play them on like various cheap retro handhelds. And so you can play like Batman Doom and stuff like that. What was the Simpsons one? There was like the Chex one as well. You can play like all those different ones. And so that's like where my knowledge basically stops. Like, I've never actually tried it on PC, but it's always super cool to see they're using the same engine.
Yeah, extremely cool stuff. Well, those are the games that we've been playing this week, everybody. Let us know what you've been playing in the comment section down below that like button. But let's move on to the news. And I want to start with, obviously, I want to talk about the ROG Ally X because it's now been officially launched. Russ has had hands-on time with it in New York. What's that?
So these hands.
Those hands. The hands that are on his arms over there in Hawaii have touched the ROG Ally X. But before we actually talk about that, I want to talk about the hardware and the RMA warranty replacement stuff separately. So I want to start with the warranty stuff. ROG Ally or ASUS ROG North America posted this today, right? Today? Yeah, today. It says, where is it here? It says, Dear ROG Ally community, we want to express our sincere gratitude for the continued support and patience as we develop and improve the ROG Ally handheld. Since this is a new platform for us, we've learned a lot from your feedback and made it significant improvements. To demonstrate our commitment to providing the best handheld experience, we would like to announce that it will be covered under a 2-year warranty program. We understand that the Ally is a new platform. We appreciate your patience as we continue to take every opportunity to make it better. Your feedback is invaluable to us, and we're dedicated to supporting and developing the best possible handheld experience. Check out the latest details on our service site. We will continue to reveal more support updates regularly over the coming weeks and months on this page. Thank you for being a part of the journey. So they're going from whatever the warranty was before. I'm not aware of what it was before. To now it's 2 years. That being said, is that enough to assuage your hesitations on this thing? What do you think, Rich?
Yeah, I haven't had many issues with RMAs in the past. So this is where it gets delicate, right? Because this is a broad statement. I haven't had issues very much with any product, so I'm pretty lucky in that regard. So it's a little hard to compare this as opposed to someone like Steve from Gamers Nexus, who has a lot of experience, right? Like dealing with these companies. And we talked about it before, dealing with them on sort of an anonymous basis, which I think is really amazing. So does this do much? I don't know. I think my concern has been that they have done a lot of talking and not a lot of action. You could argue that this is action. So that's great. But I think what I really want to see is I think I won't really be able to judge until, say, another year from now and see how the community is reacting. I think that's the big thing. Without having had these issues firsthand, I'm going to be having to look at the community and see how they're responding to this.
Yeah. You bring up a couple things that I think are important. Number one, I can't speak for Jimmy and Russ, but I also have not experienced any RMA issues. So it's hard for me to actually talk about that. It's hard for me to say, boy, these RMA issues are terrible. The ones that other people are saying are happening, yes, all of that sucks. But I personally don't have any experience with that. So it's hard for me to talk about that experience because it hasn't been my experience. I obviously think Gamers Nexus did a fantastic job. I watched all of the videos that they have about this stuff, and they've been very, very thorough in documenting all of the issues that they've had. And from what I've seen, ASUS has come up wanting big time when it comes to the RMA process. And that's definitely something that needs to be fixed. The second thing, they extended the warranty. I don't think the length of the warranty was really the issue. It was the fact that the warranty was, they got their stuff fixed, but it wasn't until there was a bunch of we're going to send your stuff back. It might be disassembled, all that stuff. All of that is completely separate from how long is the warranty. What do you think about that, Russ?
Yeah, it's interesting. They're in such a. I'm learning. I don't know a lot about this stuff. If you had asked me a year ago, the difference between ASUS and MSI and Zotac or whatever that other brand is, all of these, I don't know. You know what I mean? I didn't know any of this stuff at all. So I'm learning this stuff as I go. But the thing I'm learning about ASUS is that they are so focused on the message that they send and making sure that they're not going to get in trouble with their own lawyers or whatever it happens to be, that they send the wrong message every time. They're so bad at communicating these simple things. This 2-year warranty thing, and at face value, we're okay, cool. So the previous ROG Ally now has a 2-year warranty on it, which means that now we've got a longer window where we can now experience their terrible RMA process. Right. And so it's okay, thank you for that opportunity. Right. But then also it's they very much so did not say that the current ROG Ally X is going to have a 2-year warranty too. So did they not say it because they are worried? This is my guess, but they're worried that if they say that they already know that this one has problems too, even though they may not. Right. And I don't think it does. Actually, it's an engineering marvel, I think. But that's the question is they are so focused on that, on just how they look and what they're allowed to say, that they say the wrong things. The whole SD card thing where they're just they still will not say that there's a problem with it and that this is the problem or any of that kind of stuff. There's no transparency there. And I don't know. I mean, who knows legally or whatever why they can or cannot say those things, but holy smokes, like it's now coming out, you know, I don't know if you guys saw Linus's video, but he basically said, you know, there's a new article where people are saying that it's not overheating issues. It's nothing to do with the cooling fan, but it's the circuitry of the board, and it's blowing like a fuse or a resistor basically. And that's what's happening. And it's nothing to do with like the heat or any of that kind of stuff. So placing it in a different spot doesn't matter. They just needed to change the manufacturer of those circuits. But they, you know, maybe aren't going to say that because then they have to do a recall or whatever money thing is related to that. And so I don't like any of this stuff, but it's very similar to me, like Apple. Like I don't like Apple either. Like I don't like the way that they're not transparent, or they just like talk things up and then use new words for things. Then they're actually like just not using industry standards. But I use Apple stuff, you know, like that's what I use for all my video editing, you know. And so it's one of those things where I'm learning that yes, ASUS, like communication wise, is just weird and not easy to get across, even for me making my own videos. You know, I spent like half of my video today about the ROG Ally talking about them before I even talked about, you know, the actual device. And it's such a weird thing. I'd love to just talk about the hardware and not all this other stuff that we only have half the story with.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring up that they're so careful. I got a bunch of pushback because I wasn't willing to say that it was a scam. And like Gamers Nexus is willing to say it's a scam. You know what? Gamers Nexus and NerdNest, both on YouTube. That does not mean that we are the same thing. They are a big company with employees and all that stuff. And I'm not going to say anything for Jimmy or Russ or Rich, but I'm a nerd in his attic recording a podcast. I'm a public school teacher. I cannot afford to talk to a lawyer before I post a video. So I'm very careful about what I say, because I don't want this multi-billion-dollar company to say, well, we're going to sue him because he libel or whatever it is. I don't remember. Slander, whatever J. Jonah Jameson does. You know, I'm careful because I don't want to get sued. So I think that what they're doing is shitty. It's not good, but I'm not going to say that it's on purpose because I want to, you know, not lose my house. That beside the point. Rich, you look like you had something to say just then.
Yeah, the part about lack of transparency really resonates with me, and I do think it's a common problem across more than just ASUS. It's something I criticize Valve for a lot, right? Valve is very, very much not transparent. So, like, for example, the black screen of death, not nearly as big of a problem, seemingly as kind of ROG Ally SD card issue from that end in terms of percentage. But, you know, it's an issue nonetheless, and they've said nothing about it. So it's something that also I wish
the OLEDs are all cracking on the like the OLED limited edition. Like it's insane how many of them they crack on the very bottom, like on the right side where the screw is. It cracks like everyone check. You got the limited one. It happened to me, and it's just it happens from just using it. And
I was going to say, I thankfully don't use mine.
If you want to get it replaced, you have to replace the whole thing. You can't just get them to send you a new back panel. And it's like, all right, I'll just live with it at that point.
That sucks because the back panel is so easy to replace.
Right. I could just replace it in like 2 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. So Valve also has a problem with lack of transparency. And you know, I think, Russ, you touched on it, right? It's legal. So like, how much are these companies willing to put themselves in that legally questionable seat? But yeah, by the way, Gamers Nexus responded to the ASUS tweet with good questions, right? Good follow-up questions. They said, does this extend retroactively and to devices which already went through RMAs, including their replaced hardware, which previously would have only had 3-month limited warranty? So that's the answer to that question. Rather than inheriting the original warranty, will you contact customers who were already screwed? So yeah, I think those are good questions. And, you know, based on
3 months is crazy on its face. That's like extremely short.
It's
I think it depends on the part,
more.
because I think overall it was
okay.
a 1 year warranty for most parts.
Yeah, that's what I would assume.
Okay. I was going
I
to say 3
scrolled-
months
the
is
same as
fairly longer
Valve.
than the Best Buy, right?
Right.
Say again.
Exactly. I was going to say that 1 year is the same as the Steam Deck, but then this is about
Right.
what Best Buy would cover anyway. So it's like, not even really a warranty as long as you're buying it from Best Buy as well. It's funny because it's going to take them 3 months to respond to that tweet.
Right, because like you said, Russ, they got to get it past all the lawyers first. They got to have like the first team of paralegals look at what their response, and then they bring in the more expensive lawyers, and then they bring in the next set, and then after 400 lawyers have reviewed their response, then they're going to hit send.
Yeah.
Yeah. What part was breaking that was only covered for 3 months? Like what? I like briefly looked into this and I was like, I'm not smart.
I don't even know what Steve is referencing there. You know what I mean? Like I'm not even sure what he's bringing up that has that 3 month covered period, because everything else is like 1 year as far as I know, unless it's like I don't know what they're talking about with the 3 month thing.
Yeah. I don't know if I got lucky with mine, but I had it hooked up to the 4090 XG mobile for like 3 months and never turned off. And the only issue I've had with it is like when I would use the XG mobile, it would pop out the SD card like on its own, and then I just have to put it back in. But nothing worth RMAing. And I had it in my tool cabinet back there. I took it out. I was like, I haven't used that in a while. I'll check in on it. But yeah, the warranty stuff's kind of like, calling it a scam. I'm like, I'm in the same boat as Bill. I'm like, I'm not gonna go that far.
It's a bridge too far for
I just feel like it hasn't happened
team.
to me, like I don't like,
right,
throwing things out unless like I have firsthand experience.
Right.
Same. Yeah. And that's what we said a couple of episodes ago as well, that we wanted to talk about our actual experience, not talk about something that somebody else is doing. But what I will say, watch the Gamers Nexus videos. They're very good. Mm-hmm. They're very informative. And it's not just about ASUS. It's about a lot of companies that do this kind of thing, and they bring on like lawyers and people who talk about what consumers can do in order to protect themselves from these companies who very often will put the screws to people because they know that most people will say it's a big company. I'm not going to fight them. I don't want to I don't want to lose.
That's a great point, because that was one of the kind of talking points for Gamers Nexus is regulation, right? Like what can we do to introduce regulation? And I think that is the way to handle this, right? Because ASUS may be the kind of primary company that we're seeing right now in this position, but we want to protect ourselves from all of these corporations. Mm-hmm. And I think regulation is a great way to do it. So I'm happy that that's something that Gamers Nexus is looking into as well.
Yeah, I was gonna make a video about this whole thing, and I was gonna use Steve from Gamers Nexus on the thumbnail, and I was gonna call him Waranty Jesus, and because people would click on that. But then I decided, you know what, I don't want to talk about this all that much. And here we are talking about it a bunch.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's a hot topic. I mean,
it is.
One last thing is just so my video, which released, they had me release it at 11 p.m. my time because of embargo. It was a ridiculous time. But anyway, it's at about 70,000 views right now and 700 comments. And 90% of those comments are people talking bad about ASUS as a company, that they are the devil. So it is definitely on people's minds right now. And just it's really interesting. And one of the things, and I think as we move into the hardware thing, which I assume we're about to do, is that it's the complicated nature of a corporation, is that their RMA process can suck. Their customer service team can suck. But at the same time, their engineering team can knock a home run out. You know what I mean? And so it's like this thing where you have to remember that good and bad things can happen from the same company. Because it's so big, there are various things happening. Bill and I, I'm sure we have the same experience. Like in the military, you'd have people who they hated the Navy or they hated the Army and they were in it and they were just like so mad or whatever. Like, are you mad at the entire entity or are you mad at your boss? Are you mad at having to work late hours? All those kind of things. And so we used to see that all the time in the military, and it's always ironic for me because it's a voluntary service. Like, so you signed up for this thing for 4 years and now you're angry at the entity you signed up for. It's like, okay, man. Anyway, sorry. That was my little rant about just the complexity of a corporation like this. And you see it with every bureaucracy.
Very cool. By the way, before I just want to take a quick break and say a huge congratulations to Russ for 500,000 subs on his YouTube channel.
Nice.
And
Yeah, man.
you guys got to watch his YouTube studio tour because it's fantastic and there's some fun surprises there for you.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a number. I mean, I'm so bad at that stuff. Like as soon as it hit 500, I'm like, okay, how do I get to 501? Like that's the first thing in my mind. Like I'm not even thinking like, oh, I gotta celebrate and stuff. So I make myself pause and do things like studio tours and stuff. But really, I just want to keep pushing all the time, which is probably not healthy, but whatever.
Well, congratulations, man. And I think it's well deserved. All right, let's move on to the hardware of the ROG Ally X. The specs leaked over at Video Cards. Some people did not take their NDAs very seriously, and they sent all of the information over to videocards.com. And sure enough, it's the Z1 Extreme chip. It's got more RAM. It's got 24 gigs of RAM. The RAM is now faster. We also have an 80 watt hour battery in this beast, which is crazy to me. But then that's where the specs are pretty. I mean, it's got the same screen, it's got the same chip, it's got most of it's the same, performance wise, but everything else was changed. Russ, when you first got it in your hands, what was your first thought about it?
Yeah, so immediately it's the ergonomics. Like you can just tell when you pick it up, it's naturally ergonomic as opposed to the other one, which was like, a little bit like angly and you have to kind of twist your wrists in the right way to make it work. This one was just like, you pick it up and you're like, okay, like it works, And so it's like kind of in between the old one and the Steam Deck in terms of ergonomics, like the roundedness and the amount of grip that you have on the back. And so that's immediately like the first thought is just like, this is very much so an ROG Ally, but it just like I could give it to a stranger. They're going to put it in their hands and immediately like be like, oh yeah, this is premium. Whereas with the other one, you could see so many people were like, oh, I went to Best Buy, I picked it up and I didn't like it and I walked out. Like you see those kind of comments. I don't think you'll see the same with this one. So that's the number one thing was just like it felt like an upgrade.
How do you feel, Jimmy? How do you feel about the ergonomics of the original ROG Ally?
It never really bugged me all that much until people started pointing out specifically what they didn't like about it. I was like, yeah, I can see that. I think I have really big hands, so I don't know if that affects it, but like, I like it. I would always default to the Steam Deck, except for a game that would not run on the Steam Deck. Like for Forza Horizon 5, you can get it to like 30 FPS if you run it all low, but the Ally can play it at 60. At like high settings with medium textures. So like I would always just go to that for that game. And Diablo 4 was another one. And I would use it for like 4 or 5 hours at a time. And I never really felt my hands getting fatigued. The upgrade seems cool. I want one just because it's black. Like if I'm PS ready, I complain and bitch and moan all the time about the PlayStation 5 like going with the white for everything. I'm like, I bought the black headset, the black controller, the black plates and everything. I just want everything in black. So like that alone is enough for me to like kind of pick one up on top of doing a video. But yeah, even if you compare them in pictures, they look very similar to me, which is cool because it's not like you're going to get buyer's remorse if you just picked up a Ally. But I was laughing when Russ was talking about how people are going to Best Buy and pick it up and say, I don't want it. You can like find it in Best Buy because they always have it tucked in the back. If you just like stop and listen, because they would always leave it on like full performance mode, screen never turn off. So the fan is just like so loud that like fan noise would draw you to it. Like I went to Best Buy to pick up like a mouse and I was like, what the hell is that fan? And then I was like, oh my God, it's the ROG Ally. And it was like 20 feet away and I could hear it like with people around and stuff talking. So that was kind of funny.
Which is crazy because the Ally has a famously quiet fan compared to all of the other handhelds.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like the like little shelf they put it on or something is a good rebound of sound, but I was like, that's just funny. It's got to be because they leave it on all the time. Like they have it so the screen never turns off and it's always in the like ultimate mode or whatever. But I was laughing at that. Yeah, I like the black. I think it looks really good and it accentuates those LED rings a lot better.
It'll definitely photograph better, I think, for thumbnails and stuff. I hated trying to take oh, there goes the motorcycles again. I hated trying to take pictures of the ROG Ally for thumbnails because it always just looked like flat white. Nothing, no detail would ever show up, and I could never get the exposure right. And now it's black, so I'm like, oh, thank God. But that's a that's a problem that very few people are going to care about.
And the edges would always be soft, despite the fact that it's the most like angular device ever. It's like you can't focus on it.
Well, speaking of fans, they replaced the fans with smaller fans that somehow have better better cooling. So the fans have like a throughput that allows them to cool the screen, which I never really noticed an issue with the screen getting hot. And I guess they made the blades thinner, and it's honestly how they did this in a year is crazy to me. Russ, you had hands-on sound, like fan sound. Would sound about the same or what?
Yeah, it was. There's a lot of ambient noise. It was basically like they just like, you know, they booked like this floor of this New York City like building, and so like voices are echoing everywhere and all that stuff, and so I couldn't get a good sound like gauge. Like that's something I'll have to do in the review. But yeah, they're definitely, like they say, there's 24% more airflow, and I think part of that is because the fans are smaller, which means there's more air, and so they can push it around more. There's like more blades in the fans themselves as well, which I guess helps. And then, yeah, they added a new vent at the very top of it. There's like the two on the side, as always, but then there's one in the middle at the top, closer to the screen. That is actually like a screen vent, like to cool off the screen itself. And so it makes it 6 degrees cooler Celsius. And so that's like one of the, you can see right there, they have a third like output of the air. And so, yeah, I don't know. It wasn't a good environment to test audio quality, as well as the fan, as well as just performance, because they only had Pal World installed on it. And I was like, I don't even know how this game is supposed to run. Like, I've never actually played it. And I was like, I'm not testing any games. We will do that later on. You know?
It's a pretty poorly optimized game.
Right. Yeah. 40 frames per second of Pal World is great or whatever. And I have no idea what that means. And so I just didn't even bother like testing it. So.
You didn't load your SD card with Contra for the new D-pad?
I should have. I brought my old ROG Ally with me for comparisons, and they didn't have one, which was like amazing. So I was the star of the show. I'm like, hey, what about this guy? And I pull mine out on my backpack, and people are like, oh, he's got it. And so like all the footage you see, like from like Bob Wolf and stuff that shows both, that's mine. Anyway, that's awesome. I had my SD card and stuff. I should have actually tried it. I didn't even think about that. So.
Yeah. Yeah, the D-pad does look better. I think most people were fine with the D-pad, so I'm curious as to how it actually feels. But I like the look of it. I'll say that.
Yeah. The D-pad's got like a matte crossbar in it now, which is different. Instead of being like fully glossy, I feel like it has a little bit less pivot than the last one. So it's, again, like I couldn't test it, and so it's just another thing that we'll just have to figure out. But the thing that was immediately apparent, like, oh, this is so much better, are the face buttons. They are like, the buttons themselves are twice as thick now. So they go further down in the housing, which makes them so much more stable when they're like rocking back and forth. And so when you're pushing down, like I always do like a Hades test where I just mash on the button a bunch. And this absolutely is going to pass that test. Like it's so much more solid feeling. It feels to me like an Xbox controller, like in terms of just the feel of the button, just the size of it and stuff like that. Not quite as rounded, but just the experience is just much more like that. And so, yeah, I really like that.
I honestly prefer flatter buttons when I'm playing games, like the face buttons on the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. Like most of that controller is pretty bad, but the face buttons on that are huge and flat, and they feel really good when you're pushing them. And that's like the thing that I'm always comparing to. I'm always like, oh, those are the buttons that I really like. I can't remember if it was Dave 2D or Linus that talked about the height of the buttons and them being much like there's a barrel that they go into and it makes them more stable, so there's less lateral movement when you're playing. Did you notice that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's they call that play or wobble usually, and yeah, absolutely better in terms of that. Like just so much more solid feeling. The other thing that, and I just thought about it when I saw that picture you were showing on screen. I forgot to mention it in the video. Is that they changed the location of the analog stick and D-pad and stuff. They balanced that. They rebalanced it. So now the right analog stick is much closer to the screen, and same thing with the D-pad. So it's more inboard, which gives you like more room to hit the other buttons and avoid them if you don't want to hit them, But then also it's just more naturally like comfortable to access the sticks. It's a very minor, like we're talking millimeters. But that is another thing that I noticed just in terms of overall ergonomics is that your thumbs will naturally just pop right over to the right analog stick and it feels a lot more comfortable. And so very subtle. And I don't think that anybody is really going to mention it very often, but that was another thing I noticed. And I mean, it was so subtle, I forgot to talk about it in my video. So
yeah, they mentioned the sticks. So when the Steam Deck OLED came out, I was perfectly fine with the sticks that were on the LCD Steam Deck. And then I put my thumb on the OLED one and I was like, oh, this is so much better because the top was recessed more. And I think I was watching Bob Wolf's video, and he talked about that there is like a really good scoop where the tip of your thumb will go into that scoop. Do you feel like is that substantial to you, or was you were like, oh yeah, it's more, but who cares?
Yeah, the sticks themselves are just overall bigger, like all across the board. But then also, yes, the rim around the outer side of the cap is like thicker and grippier, and it curves up more and then falls off in the center. So I don't think that it's like that the center is deeper, but that the tops are taller. So it does give you that same kind of like very concave look. Again, I keep saying Xbox, but very Xbox-like. And so, yeah, definitely enjoy that.
You say
and
Xbox
they
one more
changed out
time and Jimmy's going to leave.
Yeah, very not PlayStation like, but anyway, the material too. They changed the material
all the time though, so like
maybe
they need to have thicker buttons.
Yeah, the joystick also has a different material around the outer ring as well as the shaft itself, and it's like palm or whatever, which is like I don't know what polyurethane or whatever. But basically, that's like the high-end plastic that they'll use sometimes in like scuff sticks and stuff like that. And so it's supposed to make it a lot smoother feeling and like not have as much wear and tear. And it does feel smoother when you just move it around. I never had problems with the original sticks, but these definitely feel smoother. And then the tension is tighter. I would say about twice as tight as the previous one. I like loose sticks. I don't know what it is about me. Maybe I'm just not a very subtle player, but I like it when they're loose. Like it just feels like, oh, I got so much control here. I know a lot of people want to have that tension, but yeah.
One thing that I like is that they apparently they made the sticks with modders in mind. You can like twist them off and get your own sticks and put them on there.
Yeah, you can. There's like a screw at the bottom. Like you pull the stick out, there's a screw at the bottom of it. You can undo that screw and pull the cap off. So if you wanted to put a 3D printed cap on there, if you wanted to have a PlayStation style setup, you could have it done like that. Like so, third party manufacturers and modders are gonna be able to do all sorts of stuff. And then also they partner with GillyKit to make Hall sensor sticks. They didn't put them in this one, and I forgot what they said. It was something like. It was all corporate speak. So I was like, I'm just going to forget it. It was like, oh, it's not the right time, or we didn't see some sort of discernible difference, that kind of crap. So it's like, yeah, they didn't do it, but they at least enabled somebody else to do it, which I think is, it's halfway there. So, and they made it super easy to mod it because you can just open it up and then just pull the daughter boards right out. And so in that sense, yeah, I think it's good. I got a bunch of, third-party stuff to add to my ROG Ally, like new buttons and stuff like that. I opened the device up and I was like, I ain't doing this. And I put it all back together and I just told the person, I said, I'm not making that video. Sorry. Nowadays, with this new one, I was like, okay, now I can do that.
So this one is a question for both Russ and Jimmy because you both have the external GPU. Yeah. This one does not use that same proprietary connector. Are you feeling a little bit of pain there, Jimmy, that this one won't work?
I sold it. Like in
that was fast.
September, I think, or October. I liked it. I was like, this is really cool. I missed my Razer Blade, so I sold it and got the like 4090 Razer Blade, and I've been very happy with that. But yeah, that I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about that. Like XG Mobile as a platform, I thought was really cool. I liked that connector that they had that gave you a little bit more like power out of the card. But like you could see why it didn't really take off because it's so prohibitively expensive and they didn't really support it. Like I was using it with the ROG Ally, but then I was also using it with the, I think it was like an X13 tablet. I was able to get one like used on eBay, and that was really cool. I like that whole tablet form factor, but I'm also an iPad user, so I wasn't like going to use that as my main tablet. So I was like, why am I doing this? I can basically get all the money I spent on it back, put that towards like a more expensive laptop for sure. But yeah, that's what I ultimately decided to do. I think like it's a trade-off, right? Like it sucks for people who bought into XG Mobile, but it's also better in the long run, I think, for people who might have like a regular eGPU lying around that uses Thunderbolt 4. Like now you can like use that, which is good. It'd be nice if they could do both, though. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little ironic, right? Because like this is pretty much the reason why you don't do proprietary connectors when you have you know, the option to not, right? Because like now all of a sudden these people that bought the ROG Ally and, you know, the 12 people that bought the 4090 or whatever and are using that don't have the option to upgrade to what is, you know, clearly the enthusiast upgrade for the Ally with the Ally X, right? The Ally X is not something that everybody is going to go out there and buy, but it's something that the people that bought a what's the connector name again? GX? Is that what it's called?
XG Mobile.
XG Mobile. The people that bought the XG Mobile and have that, you know, 2,000, there are dozens of us, $2,000, $3,000 of disposable income. Those are the types of people that will upgrade to an ROG Ally X. I don't think that the Ally X is for everybody, but it's for those folks. So yeah, it's a little ironic that this is the time that they choose to upgrade. I think that they should have chosen not to upgrade, but to change the connector. I think they should have waited till ROG Ally 2 for that.
It feels weird to do it in the half like refresh. Like that's a really quick abandonment. A year later.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And you said it, Jimmy. I think they could have done both, right? Like they could have had a Thunderbolt and still had the XG Mobile. Clearly, you know, they would need to save cost. There might be a factor on overheating, even though the SD card thing isn't necessarily overheating or due to overheating. So there are other factors there. But it seems like they could have done XG Mobile Thunderbolt, and they didn't. So feels like a miss, but that's the only real criticism I have of the hardware here.
Russ, are you going to be selling your XG Mobile graphics card so you can pick up because I know that your ROG Ally is your main Windows PC.
Yeah, it's I'm of many minds. The first is that like I feel like the haters won, basically. Like so many times I would defend the XG Mobile and be like, this is perfect for me. I can get this thing. Yes, it only works on my Ally, but with the next Ally, I'll be able to use the same graphics card, right? And then they took away the connection, and now I don't have that. And so I
kind
did
of sold
like
me on it to begin with.
Yeah, it is an amazing experience, but all that future potential just gone, cut right off, right? And so the haters won in that regard. And when it comes to like proprietary stuff, like as Rich said, like you guys are all right. Like I was wrong about that part of it, in that I thought that I would at least have more use for it later on and wouldn't be left hanging. Now I am in a super lucky position as like a YouTuber or whatever, because my XG Mobile was actually one that they sent over to me. It was like a used one that they sent over. It's the 3080, so it's like their oldest model, the 2021 version. I actually bought the 2022 version, which is the AMD one. I had that for a while, and then they said, because I had asked them, they wouldn't respond, and then finally I bought one, and it was like $800. I still thought it was totally worth it, made some videos with it, and then they finally got back to me and said, oh, we can send you this old one. And so I was still within my return window, and so I returned the other one because I'm a cheapskate, and then got the other one. And so I'm lucky in that, like, I'm not losing money with the XG Mobile thing, but I am, again, probably the only person on the planet who was in that circumstance. And so I like to think about it from the customer perspective. and say, yes, I had invested the money into it, and like the other dozens of us that have it, what if am I going to sell it? Because if I sell it, I'm going to sell the old ROG. Like those together, I can probably just afford to buy the Ally X at that point. But you're also losing that like eGPU functionality. Now eGPU is still like a very niche thing and still very limited, especially with USB 4 like Thunderbolt 4. It's not great. Like it's not a good experience. You're basically shaving off half the potential of your video card for the most part. Depends on the card you're using, right? And so, yeah, I think what I'll end up doing is actually just getting a full-fledged PC at the house instead, like a smaller one. Like I have like a console-sized PC that I did a review on. I might throw that one over there. I'm not really sure at this point, but I'm definitely not going to do the eGPU thing with the Ally X. I'm just going to wait for like Thunderbolt 5, USB 5. Like I'm going to wait for the next generation because I think those bandwidths will actually be worth it. So yeah, I think I'm just getting out of the eGPU game personally now that like the Ally X is kind of getting rid of it too.
You know, it's funny that Jimmy said, you know, they made this decision so fast. It takes a long time to make to engineer a device like this. Mm-hmm. They must have made this decision like as soon as they released the first one. In fact, right. I almost wonder, and I'm just speculating here, I almost wonder if they just had a bunch of what's XG?
4090 was the
I wonder if they just had a bunch of XG like parts and they were like, we'll put them in the ROG Ally. And when we're done with them, then we'll switch over to USB Thunderbolt. I don't know.
I mean, they have a couple other devices.
Like the cards sold out like in seconds, like when they would go back up on the ASUS store. Like I eventually got one through Best Buy. I got lucky. But like, they sold out like really quickly. They would only produce like, it had to be less than 100 with how fast they sold out. So like, it feels like they went in half committed from the start. Like they were like, let's see how this works. If it works.
And even the other devices that support it, you know, there's like a laptop, there's the tablet one, you know, they never really pushed it there. They're kind of just phasing this out altogether. Yeah. And so,
anybody have anything else about the ROG Ally X that we want to hit before we move on to other news?
The only other thing I would add.
Well, everybody. Okay.
We all got something to say.
Start us off, Rich.
All right. One quick thing I want to say is, aside from that XG Mobile piece, right? I think they went with the right approach in terms of targeting like this enthusiast audience. I think that, you know, we wouldn't want them to have like a situation where the current owners of the ROG Ally feel this sort of buyer's remorse and kind of feel like, oh man, this is not worth anything anymore. And in this case, I think a lot of people, you know, you have the ROG Ally X at home, right? Like you don't need to upgrade to the Ally X, but it's a nice upgrade if you have the money for it. So, you know, you get the 24 gigs of RAM, you get the terabyte of storage, you get the, you know, the black, which I think is important to a lot of people. So it's a nice choice for enthusiasts, but it's not something that you have to go out and get to replace your current Ally. So I think that's pretty cool. And I like that approach from them.
Russ, you were going to say something?
It's actually right along the same lines as Rich, is like this whole, do you upgrade, you know? And I think if ASUS wanted to be like good guy ASUS for once, have a trade-in program. I mean, they got to get rid of those freaking controller boards anyway. Like they're the PCBs anyway. Like it's the same chip, it's the same screen. I'm sure that they can pull those out and reuse them, right? Like there's got to be something that they can do to basically improve their positioning. And I think that a trade-in program, especially for a device that has the same chip and the same screen, there's got to be something within the realm of possible for them to basically get a win-win situation out of it. And I don't think they're going to do that at all. But
I don't see that happening in any world ever. Like that's so much money that they would be. Well, how many ROG Allies are out there?
I don't know.
There's a lot of open box ones at my Best Buy, like an alarming amount.
That's fair. I guess the last thing to talk about with the ROG Ally X, until we actually have it like in hands and not in a controlled environment where, you know, the people from ASUS are standing there next to Russ saying, "Don't do this, don't do that." The price, $800. The cheapest Steam Deck is, unless you're talking about the refurbished units, but the cheapest Steam Deck is what, $350 or $400, and this is twice that. It's also, the most expensive Steam Deck is $650, so there's that. But what do you guys think about the price, Jimmy? Do you think $800 is asking too much for this?
I don't know. Yeah, kind of. I think that also, like, it's not really warranted to increase the price. It feels like the same move that Sony did, where they increased the price of the PS5 to adjust for inflation. Like, I like all the new upgrades, but it's like screen's the same, chips the same, faster RAM, yeah, but like, is that going to be a meaningful upgrade? What you're really paying for is the better battery life and a black chassis. Like, $100 extra, I don't know. Especially when it didn't seem like the price was moving them off the shelves in the first place. It feels like kind of a just unnecessary, like unforced error, really, to me. If they did a trade-in program, I'd do it in 2 seconds. I want to see what I can get for this one on eBay. I bet it's like 300 max, I would guess, is where it's at, just based on what they're selling for open box. So like, yeah, it's not something I'd rush out and buy. It's not like a immediate upgrade for me like the Steam Deck OLED was. Like, that thing I was like excited to spend more money on. Like, I spent $650 on a limited edition one, and that was a no-brainer purchase when I already had a totally functional LCD, because I was getting performance upgrades, and like, direct feedback was addressed with the device. And to be fair to ASUS, they did address the biggest issue, which was the battery life and hopefully the SD card. So I don't know. I feel like there's like a person who was waiting when this came out. They're like, I'm going to wait for the second one. They're really happy right now, and they're like probably going to be okay spending $800, but like, I don't think they're going to capture a lot of people who already have ROG Allies.
Rich, what do you think? You think 800 is okay?
I think it's fine, but again, I'm thinking about this from the perspective that a lot of people, I don't think it's going to sell like crazy. So that's part of where I'm thinking about this from. I think this is just tide people over again, the people that want the new thing every year anyway, to tide those folks over until Ally 2. That's how I've been seeing this. So that's why I don't think of the price as a big deal. But it's also like, if someone asked me, should I buy a PC handheld, I would not be recommending an $800 handheld, right? Like, there are $400 Steam Decks out there that should be plenty fine for most people. So that's the difference of, how I'm seeing these two options.
Russ, if somebody said, I need a Windows handheld, are you going to tell them to get the Ally X, or are you going to tell them wait and see if you can get an Ally, an original Ally cheaper?
Yeah, it's all over the place, because not only that, we have the Z1 Ally, like the low spec one too, which is always on sale, which is always open box. Like, man, if you can get that one for like $300, then it's like, I cannot justify an additional $500 for the Ally X at that point. I can't, Same thing if you're just looking at the world of handheld PCs and you're like, okay, the 256 gigabyte Steam Deck model LCD is $400 directly from Valve, brand new. There's no way that the Ally X is twice as good as the LCD Steam Deck. But it's twice the price. And so yeah. I have a hard time like kind of fathoming that. I was hoping it would be around $750, because then at least it's around the same price as the Legion Go. And I thought, okay, well, that makes it a little bit more competitive. But it's all about like what people want. Like, I saw some comments early on when I released the video. People were like, it still doesn't have detachable controllers. It's the worst handheld out there. I'm like that. Okay, that may be very important for you. That is not a thing for me, And so it all really depends on what people are looking for. It's so nuanced, and so yeah, the Ally X. Going back to your first question of what am I going to recommend? It's just going to be a resounding it depends, because that's the only way I can say it.
There you go. There you have it. It depends, folks. You know what else depends is whether or not you want to pick up Lenovo. They have, apparently there's rumors of a new Lenovo Legion Go. It's on its way. It's possibly called the Lenovo Legion Go Lite. We're going to talk about that. But before we do, I got to say thank you to Russ, because he recommended these grips that I ordered from the Etsy shop, which I bet you that guy is really happy right now. But it's like a grip that goes around the ROG. And there you go. Now you can see it pretty good. Not the ROG, the Lenovo Legion Go. And it makes them so much more comfortable. I did not have a problem with the comfort of the Legion Go, even a little. But these grips make it way better. Way better. It's so much more comfortable. And I hope that they do take into account those ergonomics things that people had complained about. I think I was in the minority when I said that I felt it was pretty comfortable. But there's rumors that we're going to get a smaller version. Does that push the needle for you, Rich? A smaller version of the Legion Go?
Well, my bigger concern is that it's rumored to be less powerful too, right? So I think we might be looking at the Z1 version of the Legion Go. Mm-hmm. We don't know more than, it's all rumors and speculation at this point.
Right.
But that's what I gathered from that, is that we're probably looking at the Z1 version of the Legion Go. And I never picked up the Z1 Ally. I saw, I watched all the reviews, so thanks, Russ. But I watched that review and I was like, yeah, I don't want this. Not for me, right? Maybe it's for someone else, especially at the lower prices that Russ mentioned, but it's just not for me. So even though I really enjoy the Legion Go, this is not something that I'm just going to pick up if, I have the opportunity to review it, sure, but it's not for me, I would say.
Yeah, I feel like when you talk about the Z1 versus the Z1 Extreme, if I'm talking about retail experience, going in and buying one from a retail store, the price difference between the Z1 and the Z1 Extreme is so small that it is absolutely never worth it to me, in my opinion, to pick up the Z1 because you're just not saving that much money.
You're not. And it would be a different story if somehow, it's not as powerful, but if it could balance that with better battery life, right? If that was a thing where if I was playing, lower spec games, and that's just what I plan to play, but the Z1 has better battery life on those, lower power games than the Z1 Extreme, then that'd be great. But it's not the case either. So there's just not enough incentive to pick one of these up, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. And any thoughts on that, Jimmy?
No, I want to see what it looks like, but I don't know. I don't really need it, especially if it's like lower spec. I don't really care.
The reason I like the Legion Go so much is because of the big ass screen. Like, it's got a big screen.
Yeah,
it makes all the issues with Windows go away.
Yeah. Is it clear what I know they're calling it LITE? Will it be smaller? Do we know?
I don't think it's just rumors and stuff right now.
Because LITE have a smaller battery. I see what you're saying.
I kept looking for there's a rumor that it's going to be smaller, and I couldn't find anything. The only thing I could find was the chipset. It may not. It'll be cheaper, right? Like, that seems to be the thing that everyone is hinging on, is that it will be cheaper than the Lenovo Legion Go.
Yeah, the way I see it, though, in the PC space in particular, you never go back. You never go backwards, right? And so the fact that they're going to be like, oh, yeah, here's a older or a cheaper chip, people are just not going to, the optics of it are really going to be bad. In terms of sales, who knows? I don't know how any of that kind of stuff works because none of these guys are transparent. But, the other thing is, that's another comment I saw with the Ally X was people were saying, you mean to tell me that they upgraded it, but they put a year-old chip on there? And it's it's still a great chip, all those things. But all of a sudden now the Z1 Extreme is a year-old chip. That's how fast the PC world moves. And I can't believe they didn't put in next gen or whatever. And it's I don't know. Sometimes things are just good for a little bit. It doesn't have to be the next big thing.
I didn't see anybody really complaining when the Steam Deck came out with, it was a die shrink, but it's still the Van Gogh chipset, I know that it had a slightly different name. I can't remember what it was, but it's not a more powerful chip. It's just more efficient. And nobody really complained about that. Everybody was like, oh my God, the OLED is the greatest thing ever. And it is. But everybody saying, oh, I can't believe that there's not a new chip in the rumored, or not rumored, in the ROG Ally X. Like, you can't constantly, bigger numbers, not always better, people.
Yeah. And I mean, people that have seen reviews of like 8840 devices, they should know by now that it's not a tremendous upgrade over 7840, right? So you're not going to get a lot out of it right now. This is just one of those years, and we have some of those years in PC gaming. So we'll have to wait for the next year to see, I think, a bigger upgrade.
I think that most of the people that Russ is referring to that would complain about that kind of stuff, they are completely unaware that the Z1 Extreme chip is essentially a 7840U chip. Like most people are just like, I don't know anything about that. They're like, it doesn't have it's the same chip. That's all they hear. They hear it's the same chip, and that's not worth an upgrade. But I would say that for the Lenovo Legion Go, the Lenovo Legion Go LITE, the ROG Ally or the ROG Ally X, if you already have a Windows device, don't go out and buy one of these unless you don't really need the money, because you already have a device that's going to do most of this stuff. Are the new things better? Yeah, we don't know about the Legion Go LITE, but like as far as the X or the OLED Steam Deck, yes, these are improvements, but it's not something that I feel like you must upgrade.
Right.
Did I upgrade? Yes, I upgraded. Would I have upgraded if I didn't get versions for free? Yes, I would have. But not everybody needs to do that. I did that mostly because I'm in here. You know what I mean?
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Jimmy, I promised we'd come back to PlayStation, and we had the State of Play. They announced it on the 29th, and then it was on the 30th that, like, I was in the middle of making a video that was like it took me a very long time to make. It was like a billion tips and tricks or something of the Steam Deck. And so I wanted to do a live stream of this, but I just didn't have the time because I wanted to get my video done. I was kind of sick of making it at that point. And so I didn't do a live stream of this, which I wanted to. The big things that were announced during this, Jimmy, what's your favorite thing that got announced during the PlayStation State of Play from the 30th?
The two PSVR 2 games were kind of standouts for me. The Aliens one is called Rogue Incursion. I was like kind of whatever on it when it first started showing, but then when I saw the character lift a gun, I was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. First person shooter VR Aliens game sounds awesome. It was running like at really low frame rate though, so hopefully they can figure that out. And then the other VR game was Skydance's Behemoth. That looks super cool. Like the set pieces in it were, kind of standard video game stuff, but you have to think about it from like being in a VR headset, they'd be totally crazy. And just the level of gore in that trailer was shocking to me. I was like, there's someone's like getting their head cut off. There's a guy getting his head cut in like half vertically. I was like, this is great. This is like what I've been wanting. Because in the 360 generation, I feel like every game focused on like, this is insane new gore system. And then they got away from that. So yeah, I mean, it's from the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners people. I was excited about that. Biggest standout though, Astrobot. Looks like,
heck yeah,
like that looks so good. I was kind of worried. I was like, is this going to feel like an ad for the PS5 in the same way that the free one, Playroom comes with the PlayStation 5? No, they're doing enough to justify this. I like the whole story setup being like rescuing different PlayStation characters. Like I saw Nate Drake, I saw the guy from Journey, Kratos. It was cute watching Astrobot pick up the axe. Astrobot is a fair replacement for Sackboy. Sackboy, retire him. He's going into retirement. No one really cares about Sackboy anymore. We are all about Astrobot.
Damn. Shots fired.
I like Sackboy. They've never utilized him correctly, and when they did with like the Little Big Planet karting game that was actually really good. People didn't show up. So I'm just hoping people put their money where their mouth is with Astrobot, because, you know, everyone's excited on Twitter, but we've seen this happen a lot where a character catches on like this and it's a mascot platformer, and then the game comes out and it's like, yeah, this game sold 10 copies. We don't know why. People were really excited for it. So everyone who's excited about this should show up for it. I will be playing it. I mean, I'm very excited.
I think it helps that Playroom was a pack-in, right? So like, I think that the people that are excited about it are, you know, a lot of times what you're describing is just like the vocal minority on Twitter. But I in my heart, maybe this is just in my heart, this is cope. In my heart, I believe that people that played the pack-in, they love it. They see this, they're like, yes, I want more of that. Because, and then the pack-in was short too, right?
Yeah, it's like, you could platinum it in like 5 hours. So I did that.
Yes.
The first one was VR only too, so like I feel like people aren't even aware of that game. I showed my PlayStation Network name in a video, and then I got in a Helldivers video, and I got like 300 friend requests, so I added everyone. I was like, screw it. I've gotten a lot of messages from people who are disappointed that it doesn't have any VR implementation, and I guess I kind of get that, but that's just like a minority of potential player base. Like, I feel like the VR at this point kind of turns people off. Like, no one really cares about PSVR 2, so I'd rather them just focus on making a great action platformer. And they showed a lot of footage. Like, it's a 3.5-minute trailer, and it all looked great. So that was a good standout. Monster Hunter Wilds 2, I'm excited for that. You know, like as like a hardcore PlayStation fan, this is like not what I think I needed right now, especially after last year's showcase being so mediocre. I was hoping that this would be a showcase, and then the fact that it was a state of play was disappointing. And then at another level, there was a lot of Souls-likes, a lot of samurai games. I don't know why Sony's so obsessed with making deals for samurai games right now. I enjoy all of them. I love Ghost of Tsushima. I love Rise of the Ronin. I think is a little underrated after playing it. But you know, where's Naughty Dog? Where's Ben Studio? Where's Santa Monica Studio? Like, everyone's saying that they're not releasing games in the fiscal year, but it's like they can still announce them. Let us know that these studios are alive and not just empty buildings. You know, like PS5
I disagree on that. I think far too often.
You want it right before?
Yeah, I want them to wait and say, you know, they're on stage, or maybe they're doing a thing, and they're like, and by the way, this game is done. And it's coming out in 2 months.
I love that, but I know a lot of people, like a lot of my core audience, are like at their limit on feeling like I have not been supported correctly with the PlayStation 5. You know, I don't feel this way. I am like totally happy with the like upscaled PS4 games I've been playing, and I like Returnal a lot, which, you know, a lot of the hardcore PlayStation audience is not even aware of for some reason. But, you know, it's like $500 hardware that doesn't feel like it's reached its potential. I think a lot of people want to see games that are like later half PS3 generation games, later half PS4 generation games. Like, people are wanting that, and Sony is just silent, and they talk a lot less now than they did in past generations. So I get the frustration, but, you know, I'm happy with my PS5. I didn't even realize Gran Turismo 7 was on PS4, and I don't know how good that game looks. Like, I think it has ray tracing. The reflections of trees on the cars are like totally next gen to me. It runs at a rock solid 60. That's what I wanted out of the PlayStation 5, and I got what I wanted. But I understand why people are feeling a little let down with the lack of true next gen support, because like everything is cross gen now, it seems.
Yeah. Rich, did you watch the PlayStation thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
What jumped out at you?
So definitely Astrobot was the one for me. I also played Astrobot Rescue Mission. So I played the original VR game, and I mean that was the killer app for PlayStation VR, the original PSVR. Love Playroom. So yeah, I'm gonna buy that immediately. I will buy that on PlayStation. We can talk about the day and date stuff pretty soon, I'm sure.
Yep.
So I'll just pick that up on PlayStation, and I think it's also like 80 levels long. This is going to be their biggest game, Team Asobi. Yeah. So that is exciting. Other than that, I God of War Ragnarok, of course, coming to PC. That is huge. That is one that I haven't bought on PlayStation 5 yet. I've been waiting for this one to come to PC. This was one I was patient for. So I will be picking this up on PC for sure. I'm a little worried about the PlayStation Network sign-in required and what that means for compatibility with the Steam Deck. I do hope that this will play decently on the Steam Deck, but that's my big concern there.
Yeah, I see a lot of people. So first off, it sucks if for anybody who lives in one of the countries where you don't have access to the PlayStation Network, you can't buy this game, I'm sure. And that's stupid. That's like saying, I don't want your money. Your money's not worth enough for us to bother with this. Or to your money is not valuable enough to us in order for us to not hamstring this game so that people can't buy it. That's the message that I feel like Sony is sending when it comes to this. That being said, I don't like my problem with Helldivers 2 was that they changed it after the fact. So like
that was so whack.
Right. The like Ghost of Tsushima and God of War requiring PSN sign-in, I don't care. That doesn't bother me even a little. If it won't run on the Steam Deck, I might complain.
Yeah, it's like they're sending that message for sure. But like, as someone who's followed Sony for my entire life, I never attribute anything to them that I can attribute just ignorance to malice, because I genuinely think they did not know what they were doing when they were just like, yeah, throw in the sign in, make it required so we can get people logging in. You know, that's just so we can track the metrics or whatever. And then some guy in the company was like, hey, you know, this is going to like get it taken off of Steam in like 150 countries. And they're like, oh, we already shipped it. What? Like, I just, they've done stuff like this over and over again. When anything related to network with them, they screw up. So
I feel like that argument makes perfect sense for the first time that they do it. But then for Ghosts and God of War Ragnarok, they're doing it again. I
hope they have a way to, I hope they're actively working right now on a way to get that launcher working on the Steam Deck, or overlay, so that this is not a problem in September. Do I think they will? No, because like look at their history. They're always behind on anything online related, and then when they get it working, like it's hit or miss. I mean, it took them like 2 generations to be able to let you change your PSN name, and even that doesn't totally work right. So, you know, PSN's held together by duct tape.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 2 things are happening. So part of it is, I think there is a lot of like ignorance here in terms of, or like, I don't know what the right word is, but I do think that they're kind of pushing forward with this plan that they've had without really thinking it through. Like the plan is these like milestones, right? We're going to launch PSN Network on PC. We're going to make this game have it for multiplayer. Then we're going to make this game have it for single player. And, you know, then we'll have our plan. So that's their plan, but they haven't like gone deeper than that. Like what happens, like what Jimmy said with the countries, what happens with like Steam Deck compatibility. It doesn't seem like they've thought that part through. And that part is concerning, especially with how fast they're rolling this out. They don't seem to be at this point, like slowing down, like, oh, maybe we should do something about that. They're just pushing forward. Yeah. And likewise, I do think for the higher level plan, they are kind of boiling the frog here, right? So like they started with no PSN whatsoever, then, you know, added it to Helldivers, which is a, you know, live service game. It makes sense. If it would have made sense if it was there at launch and stayed throughout. But it makes sense for a live service game. And then Ghost of Tsushima came out, and then it was required, but only for online multiplayer, or if you need the overlay, no big deal. The thing about God of War Ragnarok is that it's not clear, but it just says it's required. It doesn't say it's required for the overlay. It doesn't say it's required for online multiplayer, of which I don't think there is any in Ragnarok, right? It just says is required. So that is a little disappointing. I would have liked the option, right, to just not need it. Like if I don't care about the trophies, I don't care about my friends, then, you know, I don't need to log in.
Do it the way that CD Projekt Red does, where when you boot up Cyberpunk 2077, it's like, do you want to log in? No. And then I just move on with my life.
They want that active PSN user number to go up. So if you make everyone who buys it on PC log into the PSN, they can count them as a PSN user, make the net metric go up. It's just like, it's dumb. I don't know.
And they can email,
I like it.
They can email
I like getting
people.
the trophies. I am pissed that the trophy lists are synced. So like, you know, a lot of these PS4
trophies.
Yeah, like Spider-Man Remastered, you could just load up your PS4 save, immediately get the platinum. That was awesome. And like back in the day on the Vita, if you bought PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, you got the Vita version with it. You got the platinum on one. You log in, download your save, you get the platinum on the other. Like that's easy W. Now I have half completion of my PS5 save of Ghost of Tsushima, and so I have to like get to the point where I was at, then get the rest of the trophies that I didn't get the first time I played it. But it's like, I want the double trophy list.
Yeah. So they don't, they if they're going to do that, I thought that they had incorporated, what did I think that for Helldivers? Can you now do not crossplay, but can you like bring your player over from, you still can't do that?
That's so stupid because they said it. They said it on the fucking PlayStation blog. Sorry, Sora.
They did.
They said, yep, it's going to have cross save day and date. So where did I buy it? On both platforms. And then I like go on my PlayStation and play with my buddy Jake, and I have nothing. I'm like, oh, surely this is just like it's downloading my thing. And then it's just like I go on Twitter, and the CEO, who's now the creative director, was like, yeah, Sony screwed up. They wrote that. It's not true. We're working on it. But now here we are in June. Game came out in February. Where is it? That's so essential to live service games.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
when you play a live service game, you should just sign into your account, and all of everything that you've ever done on any machine should be there. So like when I buy a new computer and I install World of Warcraft on it, or when I log in to Diablo 4 on my Xbox, immediately my characters are there. And and Jimmy has two different sets of characters, or two different characters, one on PC, one on PlayStation, right?
And I know this is going to be a problem because I played a few rounds on my PlayStation 5. I am ready for it to just automatically pick my PlayStation 5 save and just wipe my PC save whenever they implement this. I just like anything where Sony can screw up with the network. You just got to prepare for the worst case scenario, because that's just what's going to happen. And then they'll be like, damn, we didn't even think about that. And then I'll have to do like a save recovery or something. But yeah, it's dumb. And Xbox is pretty bad with it too. Like with Forza Horizon 5, I played a big chunk of that game on my Series X, and then I bought it on Steam. And then it's like, you still have to log into your Xbox account, but it only transfers your save if you use the Xbox app on PC, which I'm not going to use. So it's like, just figure it out. I don't know. I asked Phil Spencer about this. I got to have lunch with him like a year ago. I kind of grilled him on it. I was like, why do your Steam versions of your games not have save? And he blamed it on Valve. And I was like, come on, man. They're not the problem. They're not doing like, there's so many games that like Diablo 4, we're on Steam. It works fine transferring saves with my PlayStation 5. Like, I don't know. It makes me so mad.
Russ, did you get a chance to watch the PlayStation thing?
I did. One thing of note, about the saves too. Destiny is a good example, because that one you can play on Xbox, play it on PlayStation, play it on Steam, and it's cross save for all of them. So there's a realm out there, and that's one of the things that tempered my enthusiasm about God of War Ragnarok. Because man, I sunk I don't know how many hours into that game. I don't want to play those hours again. I actually want to do more end game stuff, and I'd love to do it on PC. And
they need to get save transferring for PS5 to PC. That's just like a must.
Yeah, but I would say that the game that stood out for me, it's always weird with me. It's like I'm so fickle, but Silent Hill 2, I was like, okay, now's the time that maybe I can play this game, because in a little story time, but like when that game first came out, like 2001, 2002 or whatever, I was here in Hawaii, and I was living with two roommates who were also in the Navy. And one Friday or something, we're like, let's just go to GameStop. We're going to pick up Silent Hill 2. It was like 2 p.m. We're going to play through this game during the daytime so that we don't get scared, because we were all like freaked out about it, right? We're like, we're going to do it while it's still light out, right? So we turn it on, we start playing, and we just can't see anything because all the fog, and it's daytime. So like all the sun's reflecting in, you just can't see what's going on. So we played it for like 20 minutes. We're like, oh, I guess this is not a game we could ever play, because we're too much scaredy cats to play it during the daytime. And then also like, you can't because of the reflections. And so I never played that game, and I always wanted to. And I don't know, I feel like I might be able to handle this better than Resident Evil 4 Remake, because Resident Evil 4 Remake was just like so, I don't know, so stressful. This one's more creepy, and I'd rather do creepy than like stressful. So I don't know.
There's no jump scares or anything in Silent Hill. It's like it's all atmosphere. The enhanced version of the PC version runs really, really good on Steam Deck. Like there's like a fan enhanced PC version.
I'm watching the trailer right now, and there's like a lady, like a nurse lady, crawling across the ground. That terrifies me.
You should try the original, because for like half the game, all you have is a board, and you could just beat the living shit out of every enemy because they're so slow, and it has really weird controls. So you can just kind of like kite around them and just like whack them until they're dead. Because like there's a finite number of bullets, and you're supposed to save them for Pyramid Head or whatever. But yeah, I mean, like once you get that board or the pipe, you're like a WWE guy just like rolling through this town. Like you're the villain to these people. But yeah, I noticed they've changed James' model for the like I think 5th time. So hopefully this is the one they stick with, because I feel like it's closest to the original game. It does look a lot better than the last time they showed it, for sure. Like everything looked a little bit more cleaned up, and the combat looked a little less janky. But I'm not too worried about that, because I mean the original one has probably the worst combat of any survival horror game I've ever played. So like the bar is on the floor really for that. If they can meet it, I'm happy. Yeah, it looks good. I like Blue Bear. I'm glad they have combat in this game for once. Like this is their first combat game.
Anything else to jump out at you, Russ, that you were interested in?
You know, I took a look at some of those samurai, or like just like the action RPGs and stuff, like Ballad of Antara, I think is how it's called. Like that one looks neat. But then like I looked up the studio. I was like, oh, it's the studio that made like what is it called? Pascal's Wager, which is like a iPhone game, you know. And I was like, I don't know. Like, and then it says free to play fantasy, and I'm like, oh, like they're gonna try nickel and dime me. And already, like I'm already thinking like, oh no, this may not be a good fit. It looked kind of neat, you know. I like the idea of a AAA Chinese game. Like I haven't played one of those ever, I don't think, you know. And so I like the idea of just kind of seeing how a development studio based out of China would make a console game. And so that made it a little bit interesting to me. But yeah, I don't know. That free to play thing makes me a little nervous. See, there's finally like gameplay right there, and I'm like, okay, that looks cool, you know. But who
Pascal's
knows?
Wager is a premium game, so it's weird to see them like regress to free to play.
Right.
I feel like this is a response to Elden. Like you look at this and it screams Dark Souls, Elden Ring, that kind of. I mean, obviously not just the genre, but the art style as well. Like I feel like if I had put a boss from Elden Ring on screen and a boss from this game on screen, like side by side, and said, "Hey, person who's never played either of these." Or you know, I ask, what's her name from The Office, and she'd say they're the same picture. You know.
Yeah.
So for me, so I have a couple games that I got excited about. I'm a little excited for Astrobot. I love the idea of playing it. It looks very Mario. It's like 3D Mario-ish, which we don't get enough of those. So I am excited for that. But for me, at first I was excited for the Alien game, and then I saw that it was VR, and I noped right out of there. I was like, nope, no thank
Everyone's saying that. Everyone I talk to is like, too scary. I'm like, I get it.
Well, I thought it was going to be a sequel to Alien Isolation, which is my favorite horror game that I've ever played. It's amazing. I absolutely adore that game. I cannot imagine playing it in VR, and I can't imagine playing this in VR either. It's just too intense, and it looked a little low frame rate, which VR, it's very important that you have good frame rates, otherwise you're going to feel sick. But the game that I mean, you guys aren't going to be surprised even a little. Monster Hunter Worlds. I love Monster Hunter games, and Monster Hunter. No, not Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter Wilds is the name of the game. Monster Hunter Worlds, I loved. And then Monster Hunter Rise came out, and that was even better, and in my opinion. So I'm very excited for what's going to happen with Monster Hunter Wilds. And the thing that struck me most about this particular trailer is they were showing some gameplay, which is awesome. Of course, they removed all the HUD elements so that it just looks cooler. But the difference in the environments, like right now, for the people who are listening to the show instead of watching it on YouTube, we're seeing a very, very drab environment, almost completely absent of color. Everything's just like brown. It feels like it's very PS3, Xbox 360 era. But then, bam, there's a shift to a different location, and it's super vibrant, beautiful colors. And I was just like, wow, that looks so cool. And the gameplay loop for Monster Hunter is the thing that just makes it absolutely fantastic, which is why I've got 200 hours in Monster Hunter Rise and like 50 hours on the Switch and then 150 hours on Steam. It's just so wow. I love the genre, and I can't wait to play more of it and see what Capcom does with Monster Hunter Wilds. I think that we've got another hit on our hands. And then speaking of games that nobody else cares about, well, I'm not going to say nobody else on the podcast cares about. That's Dynasty Warriors. I'm not a huge fan of Dynasty Warriors games, but I do love the Musou games that have been on the Nintendo Switch. So
the Zelda one is cool.
The Zelda ones, the Fire Emblem ones. I heard somebody told me that there was a Dragon Quest one that I didn't even know about. But the ones where they
Heroes, I think.
Dragon Quest Heroes, is that I didn't know that was a Musou game. So like these Musou games that are like mixing with other IP, I've played those and they've been fantastic, but I've never played the original series, the Dynasty Warriors series. And if you're looking for, like, I know that people think that it's just a dumb button masher, but there's more to it than that, because you've got, when you play these games, yes, you are hitting 48 dudes at the same time. And, you finish a level and you've killed 3,000 enemies or something. Like, it's a crazy number, but it's not just about taking out those enemies. It's about watching that map and having multiple characters on the map saying, okay, you need to go over here to this part of the map, and you need to go over here to this part of the map, and then you jump in and control them when they get there. And then, the other character that I sent over to the other part of the map, they just arrived where they needed to be, so I'm going to swap over to them and control them. And that is all very exciting to me. I'm definitely going to be picking up Dynasty Warriors Origins. I don't know if I'll pick it up on PS5. I will probably wait until it comes to PC. I don't know if it's a day and date thing.
Should likely be day and date. I think all of those games are coming to PC day and date, except Astrobot, which has not been announced to PC. God of War Ragnarok, which is obviously a port, and then is Until Dawn. Is that day and date?
Well, Until Dawn's already on. Like,
this is a remaster, essentially, and a compilation. So it's coming to PS5, and then I think day and date will be coming to PC as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, most of these games. Go ahead.
That game's really good. I was like kind of underwhelmed by the remaster, but then I thought about it. I'm like, they'd probably have to redo a lot of the motion capture to actually get it to look like, the Quarry or something like that. And there's no way they're going to get like Hayden Panettiere and Rami Malek back in the studio. So it makes sense. Mm. But yeah, that's a good day and date game, I think, like for people who like those playable horror movies, and I like that one more than a lot of the Dark Pictures games.
Fair. Nice. The game that everybody hates on, Concord. So, Jimmy, I want to hear what you think about Concord. What's that?
Guardians of the Galaxy at Home. The game.
Yeah, we have Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I don't know. This is like so many levels of not for me. It's crazy. Like, it's like, oh, a hero shooter. I'm over those, and like, we're gonna deliver you cutscenes every week to tell the story. It's like I'm kind of live serviced out. I'm gonna like see Destiny 2 through, see how the end game works out for that, see where it goes from there. But like I've also got Diablo. I mean, like Forza and Gran Turismo are live service on their own too. So like, yeah, this is cool. I see why Sony believes in it, because it's a studio made up of Destiny 2 veterans. But Rich and I were talking about this, and it feels like something that they put greenlit to get their little Destiny 2 clone before they decided they were going to buy Bungie, and now they're kind of stuck with two very similar playing games. I want to hear what Rich has to say about recontextualizing hate, but I don't feel like I'm the target audience for this game, and I also don't like I don't like hero shooters, so I'm like happy to not be the target audience, I guess, because I don't want to feel like I have to play something.
Yeah.
Give us some context, Rich.
Yeah, so I think like, the defenders of this game, it just seems to them like it's just a bunch of people hating and meaning like we're dogging on the developer, right? But the thing is, this game looks good. It looks well done. It looks well crafted. And the developers are of a good pedigree, it seems, right? Like these are people that have come from Bungie, I believe, ex-Bungie employees.
Yeah.
So it looks like a well-crafted game. It's not the developer's fault per se, but it's just, I don't think very many people were looking for anything like this, right? So like, I think that when it comes to live service games, we have a lot of these, what we see as like cash-in opportunities. And the way I'm defining cash-in here is that basically it's just, we saw something else was successful. We're going to try to put money into that same thing. And and I think that really fails to capture why these games were successful in the first place. It wasn't because money was poured in. It was because, most of the time, because they were novel, right? And there are exceptions to that rule, like Apex Legends, which is less novel, perhaps. I wouldn't say it's not novel, but it's less novel than some of the other live service games that popped off. But most of them are, these are experiences that I couldn't get elsewhere. And I tried it, and now I want to spend all my time in this. And so there doesn't seem to be a lot of reasons for me to, when I see this game, to be like, oh, I want to try this game, especially if you're already into a hero shooter like Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege, Valorant, I think kind of fits in that category. So it's just in comparison, right? And I talked about this elsewhere, but like 2 other hero shooters are coming out in addition to this one, right? So Marvel Rivals is another one. That one inherently has a lot of reason for me to be like, oh, I kind of want to try that, right? Like I kind of want to play as Spider-Man in a hero shooter.
Right.
Like that sounds badass. So that has one reason for me to try. And then Deadlock. So Valve is working on their hero shooter, Deadlock. And that game doesn't look like particularly interesting. That rail thing looks cool, right? But the thing about that is, it's Valve. So they're, even if it like doesn't stick the landing at first, they're probably going to stick to it and make it better until it's better, right? Until it's something that's interesting and people will play it. I don't have that faith with Concord. I think if it doesn't stick the landing immediately in the first couple weeks, Sony's not going to pour any more money into Concord or Concord development, and we're just going to see it disappear. So it's just failing on both of those sides, at least in my view. So that's where my hate comes from.
Yeah, it could also be a vocal minority too. Like I know the hardcore PlayStation fan base is very against these live service games. Like if you check out this other one, Fair Games, if you look at the reveal trailer for that, it's got the same reaction, like huge downvotes because people don't want Sony investing in these games. But like anecdotally, I've heard from my friends who like casually play video games that they're interested in it just because it is a first party Sony hero shooter, and they like attribute Sony to quality. And they're like, well, Sony's putting it out, I'll give it a shot. And they're doing a beta. We'll see how that is in July. And it's cool that it's day and date PC, PS5. To me, it's just like, it doesn't really have like, when I watch the trailer, I don't like, it doesn't feel like anything. It just feels like it feels like it was made by a committee or a boardroom to me. Like it doesn't have a soul when I watch the trailer, and that's kind of what's turning me off from it. Like it's very Guardians of the Galaxy. Like the characters are all just kind of generic looking to me. And I did notice a lot of the moveset is just cloned right over from Destiny. Like you've got the trip mine with the Hunter who's using the hand
Right.
cannon. Like they're egregiously a little bit with certain things borrowing from Destiny, and I was like, well, I've got Destiny. Why do I need to play this? You know? So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But
I feel like a lot of people looking at this game. Well, first off, I think that Sony's making a mistake talking about like, well, we're going to give you videos each week to tell the story. Listen, I know that Overwatch had some of the best cutscene things ever for trying to tell the lore of that world. You're not going to pull that off every week. So just don't. Nobody cares about the story for these games very much at all. We just want to get in and beat some dudes up and get out.
Yeah.
Like that's what
also
people
for
are really there
18
for.
characters, like, is it going to go
Oh
in
my
sequential
gosh.
order? Like, there's a lot to iron out there. Fire Sprite, I'm kind of rooting for them though. Like, I don't know, it's a new studio that Sony saw something in to the point where before they even released a game, they bought them. So I want some faith that Sony still has the ability to pick out good studios. But yeah, I don't know. Stop for me.
For me, this game, I think that Concord could be great, and everybody's just assuming it's bad. And this happens all the time. Everybody, like, we see some gameplay, and they're like, this is like they're deciding ahead of time that it's bad, and they've never played it. And that's the thing that drives me up the wall. It's the same thing with Starfield. When Starfield came out, everybody was saying, oh, it's going to be garbage or it's going to be bad because of this or because of that. And there's a lot of people who hated that game. There's a lot of people who liked that game. Somewhere in the middle was where that game lived. There were parts about it that are good and there's parts about it that are bad. But there's a certain subset of the video game audience that just make decisions before they've ever touched a thing and they say it's bad. And then they just stick to that and they never change their mind. And it drives me up the wall. And not that I really care what those other people think, but I'm like, why is everybody dunking on Concord when they've never touched it?
Yeah, I'm not I'm not like going to say that it's going to fail on the outset because I don't think that. I think there will, like, a lot of these people who are complaining about it will definitely play the beta, you know? They'll just show up to try it out. But yeah, I'm always an advocate for, you know, actually playing something before you criticize it. There's just a lot here that doesn't connect to me. So it's like, it's not that I don't like it, it's just that I don't care, you know?
Yeah, and I'm not talking about you, Jimmy. I'm talking about the people who, like, when I was watching this, you had the YouTube chat and like those people were like L's or LL, and I was like, God, you're a bunch of assholes. Like, why are you such assholes?
But I didn't like the showcase for my own reasons, but like there was a lot of good stuff there. My reasons for not liking it are more, it's like timing wise. And then when I saw people talking about the showcase after, they're like, nothing good was there. I'm like, you're objectively wrong. Like, if you take it on its face, there was a good variety of different games for different audiences, which is what that's like supposed to be. But I just think they need a showcase right now. So I was like disappointed.
Yeah.
And that's what leaked. And it's weird. If you watch this thing, if you go watch any other State of Play, the like little logo for it is all over these videos, but this does not have it anywhere. So it feels like they may have had some sort of showcase they were planning on doing and they downgraded it last second. So
interesting.
The State of Play is like nowhere to be found here.
I felt like there was not rumors, but yeah, maybe rumors that like a showcase would be coming soon after this State of Play as well. Did
I
you
heard
hear
September to line up with the Pro announcement, right? Like, here's what owners of the PS5 can look forward to, and here's what people who buy the PS5 Pro will get as a benefit for buying this console. Like, it makes sense, right? Like, get people excited to buy hardware, show everything all at once. And also there's going to be, I've heard a lot of games that were going to be in this showcase when it was a showcase are going to be at Summer Games Fest. Like this Lego Horizon game and a couple more PC ports and Death Stranding 2. Because, you know, Jeff and Hideo have like a romance.
I find that whole thing super irritating. Russ, you were going to jump in a minute ago, and what were you going to say?
I was going to totally agree with Jimmy about the release timing of this game. I think that it's just like, so I as you guys were talking, I was like, I don't know anything about this studio, but you guys said the word Destiny. I'm like, oh, let me look it up. Right. So they're called Firewalk Studios, and
Firewalk,
they were bought
first, right?
Yeah, bought last April. So they've been owned by Sony for over a year. But in that press announcement, which is a year old, it says, over 5 years ago, we jumped into the chance to set up a new studio and build a new IP from the ground up. So they've been working on this thing for 6 years,
Yeah.
And so it may end up being a very good game, right? But yeah, the timing is just like 6 years ago. If they could have released it, a year after that, would have been amazing, right? It would have been capturing the kind of the aura that was around at that point. But now it's just a little bit too late. And so who knows? It might revitalize the genre, or it just might not be enough for people to even care.
If they released this like pre-Witch Queen Destiny, I feel like it would have had a great shot. But like, I feel like Bungie really
Destiny was amazing 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I think I want to kind of combine what Rich said and what Russ said real quick, because Rich was saying it feels like they're chasing trends. And Russ is saying they've been working on this for 6 years. If this game had come out 6 years ago, like, it would have been on fire. But because AAA game development takes so friggin' long, by the time somebody just like, they're like, okay, Overwatch 1 was awesome, let's make an Overwatch. They go to make one, and it takes them so long to get it out the door that trend has stopped by then. And I feel like that might be possibly what's happening here. I still think that it's great that they're making it, and I will try it, especially since it's free. I'm sure it'll be free. It's a live service game. They're going to get money through playing dress up. So I feel like this is definitely something that's interesting to me. And I felt like just too many people are writing it off, not because it's not a game for them, but because I don't even know what their reasoning is. It's just, they're like, oh, it looks like crap.
Reactionary.
Yeah. Right. It's like, I want to dunk on something.
People show up like good too.
Yeah. Like the genre thing to me is like, I'm with Jimmy. Like, this is not my game. Like, I've never played any of these types of games. I'm not going to play this game, but like a Metroidvania is my genre. And I've never once said, oh no, not another Metroidvania. I already have others. Right. You know what I mean? And so there's always room for like a good new genre game, even if there's already a good one out there. And so who knows? It might be good and whatnot. It's true that it is similar to other games on the market, but so are every other first person shooter out there, And so, we'll see.
How many boomer shooters you need, Rich?
All of them.
All of them. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I think the only counter you could give to what Russ is saying is just the time investment from a live service game, right? Like, increasingly, people are playing apparently 5 games or something like that, right? Like, the number of games that people are playing has gone way down, and a lot of those are live service games. So I think there's that, but you're also right? Like, if there was a new hero shooter that outdid Overwatch, outdid Valorant, outdid Rainbow Six Siege to a high degree, then that just becomes the new hotness, right? So if Concord can do that, then more power to them for sure.
Yeah. And it's also low risk for Sony because they picked it up for its last year of development, right? Like, it's not like they funded it for 6 years and then they got to eat it if it loses. Like, that's like barely a gamble. Like, there is a monetary gamble for them there, but they bought the studio, gave them a cash infusion to finish the game up. And if it fails, then Sony's like, they kind of set themselves up well to support it if it succeeds, or abandon it if it fails.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rich, you mentioned earlier the PlayStation PC day and date versus holding on to the games for a really long time situation. You want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah. So Herman Hulst, one of the soon-to-be co-CEOs of PlayStation, I suppose, Sony PlayStation, like the overall business, he was presenting at a business Q&A, something like that. And he said that for live service games, they're going to continue releasing those to PC day and date with the PS5 releases, but for their tentpole single player narrative games, they will not do that. They're going to adopt a different strategy. Humorously, what he said was that they would try to attract those new audiences that could then buy the sequels on PlayStation 5 or PlayStation consoles.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this in our private chat, we were talking about God of War, right? And like, it's like you play through the first God of War on PC and you're like, wow, that was so good. I'm going to spend $570 to play God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah.
But you know what? The thing is, you watch the trailer for God of War Ragnarok's PC release and it's like, ultra widescreen support, unlocked frame rates, and it's like all of the things that your PlayStation 5 can't do. They're basically in the middle of this presentation saying this is why the PC is better. Although the response that I would say is your PC better? Because most people's isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I VSync everything to 60 anyway. And so I like go high DLSS quality, VSync on, done. So then I'm like,
that's it.
I'll just play these games on PlayStation 5 because I'm going to get 60 FPS. I'm going to get, upscaled 1440p to 4K or whatever the hell metric or number they use. Like, I get it. But yeah, no, Rich, you're totally right. Like, no one's going to, Rust too, no one's going to be like, man, I just spent $4,000 building this beast of a PC, but I really want to play God of War Ragnarok. So I'm going to go buy a console bundle. Like, that's not happening.
Yeah. And to be fair, I do. So these are two different concerns, right? Like, so for the PC gamer, no, this isn't the best move for the PC gamer. This isn't necessarily the most consumer friendly move, but I'd have a video coming up where I argue that it makes the most sense for Sony. Yeah. Like I think
their brand and their platform. Like,
right, exactly. Like I think that if they were to do day and date releases, I mean, we've said it before, right? I don't have an Xbox. I know a couple of you guys have an Xbox, but I don't have a reason to own an Xbox. And if they did day and date releases to PC, I would not have a reason to own a PlayStation. As it is now, I am going to buy Astrobot. I did buy Spider-Man 2. So I'm sort of like, I pick and choose, right? Like, I will buy some of the games that I think may come over to PC. I may still buy them on PS5. But I still end up buying games on the PlayStation, those games that I think may not come over or may not come over soon enough because I already have that console. Now, that said, one quick thing is I don't think this is for me or for the PC audience, even though that's what they said. And there is some truth to like the TV series bringing in new people. But I think the main reason is that they just don't want to cannibalize the existing base. Just, they don't want someone like me to not have a reason to own a PlayStation. So I think that's the main reason that they don't want to move away from the strategy that they have today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, real quick, during the show, I asked everybody what they'd been playing, and I totally forgot to mention that I've been playing this game called Skald, which is I've heard people call it Baldur's Gate 3 LITE. It is a old school super pixelated as hell RPG, old school RPG with a lot of dialogue and very restrictive color schemes and everything. This game is very cool. I'm super early in. It's pretty punishing. There's you can definitely screw yourself over a little bit, but I'm loving this and I can't wait to explore this world more, but I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time talking about it today because we're running really, really long so far. So I look forward to me mentioning more about Skald on another day. It's called Skald Against the Black Priory. They sent me a review copy. I'm going to keep playing it. It's awesome. You can play it on a Steam Deck because of the trackpad, but it's definitely a mouse kind of game. That was going
to be my question. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, you can.
It has multiple text options, though. So, like, because this guy I watch Mortismal Gaming did a video on it, and they purposely put in a way to make the text more, like, large and more readable on the Steam Deck.
Yeah,
nice.
And it gives you that option when you're playing. When you boot it up, it pops up as like, which text do you want, and you get to pick.
I love that. That's great.
But that's going to do it for today's episode. Jimmy, tell us about your latest video or your next video.
Got a news video up on PS Ready all about what we just talked about, the Herman Hulst and the whole business shakedown.
Nice.
On Deck Ready, I've got one coming up where I talked about the Zotac Zone. I was like, I don't know what this is. And working on a new channel, just chipping away on that. So please be excited.
I'm excited.
Is that okay, I'm not going to say anything. I'll ask you after the show.
It's a movie channel.
Right. Okay. This is the one that I saw the video of. And, okay.
I'm cooking up video
I was confused
right now
about that then. Okay. Rich, what are you working on?
I have a video pretty much wrapped now where I talk about the day and date strategy for Sony. I had enough to say about that I made it its own video, so that should be coming out sooner. And then I have a Deck News Roundup coming up where I talk about like the clip recordings and things like that. The new feature that should be coming to the Steam Deck. I think it's coming pretty soon based on what we've seen so far. But yeah, I'll be talking about that and more.
Awesome. Russ, you just put out your ROG Ally X video this morning. Everybody should go watch that, as well as your studio tour and your New York video. You've been a very busy guy over there. What's next?
So we're leaving in 2 days for England for 10 days. We're going on our family vacation, summer vacation. Yeah. So like we've had this plan for many years. It's just like terrible timing with the New York trip and whatnot. The other terrible timing is that on the day before our trip, 2 devices are arriving in the mail that are pretty high, like anticipation. One's an Ambernic, one's from AYN. It's an Odin 2 Mini. So I am going to that night record 2 impressions videos, just like, okay, like literal unboxing videos. Like this is what it feels like in the first 20 minutes. Cause I got to go pack,
That's
so I'm
intense.
like, I'm going to try to sleep tonight so that I have like enough energy to get through that. And then I'll release those next week, basically. But then at the same time, I'm also making a guide for like all of these Ambernic, like cheap RG35XX devices. Like I've been working on this full guide. The written guide is 10,000 words right now. To give you context, a short novel is 40,000 words. So I'm like a quarter of a novel at this point in just my guide of how to get this thing set up. It's because I'm covering every little thing, all the different operating systems and options and how to tweak each one. So I've been working on that for like the past 3 or 4 days. So I'm hoping I'll finish that video tonight. So that way tomorrow when the other ones come out, I can make those impressions videos. So I'll have lots of videos to come out while I'm on vacation, basically. So anyway, long rant, but yeah, lots of things coming.
Good. I can't wait for that video because I want to get mine set up the right way. Right now I'm using the stock OS, which is fine, but I want better. I want better than fine. Thanks for asking, Rich. I just put out a video that was about the Steam Deck and just a bunch of tips and tricks and accessories and fixes and stuff. It's a long one. It's like 45 minutes long or something like that, but like I sat down and I recorded for 3 hours, like I got 3 hours of footage and then I cut it down and it was still an hour long. And I was like, oh my God, I got to cut way more out of this. So I chopped a bunch of stuff out, which is why there's a mistake right in the middle of it. There's an audio sync issue that's there for maybe 30 seconds or so, and then it goes away. That's because I had gone in and cut out a part that I was like, everybody already knows how to do this, so I won't keep that in there. But I'll link to all of those videos, Russ's videos, Rich's videos, Jimmy's videos, my video. They'll all be linked down below that. But like button. We're past 2 hours. This is officially the longest episode of the NerdNest podcast. Thank you guys for hanging out with us for so long. You're awesome. And thank you to the panel for being fantastic. Make sure that you go and check out all of their stuff. It's all linked down below. Stay rad, everybody. Bye-bye.
See you guys.